Eye contact started as homework for a creative writing evening class. Right from the beginning, I wanted to avoid doing the standard police procedural, where we see occasional glimpses of the killer and lots of routine police work. I wanted to tell a story much more from the murderer's point of view, to understand what it would be like to plan these kind of terrible crimes, to execute them, and to live with them afterwards. It started with a body. In fact, the very first thing I wrote was a scene here on Severn Beach where a woman's found murdered. And that scene stayed word for word pretty much unchanged right through to the final novel. It's an amazing location, wonderfully bleak place, and a tragic sight for a life to come to an end. So I had a woman lying dead here on the beach, but at that time I didn't know very much about the man who'd killed her. The idea for my serial killer came about through a chance conversation with a friend. We were walking through town, passing people in the street, and we just got to talking about how would you find one of these strangers again? How would you go about tracking them down? At the time I didn't think too much more about it, but later I started to wonder, what if you were a murderer and that was how you chose your victims? The first person to make eye contact after a certain time of day becomes the target. You give them 24 hours head start before you go looking for them. And if you find them, you kill them. Once I had that, the story really started to come together. I understood the game that my killer was playing and the path that my detective would have to follow. When I first wrote him, up there on the seawall, Detective Harland came across as an angry man, but there was something missing from him. I tried to think about what events can impact on someone and really define them, and I tried to think about what the worst thing is that could have happened to him. From my perspective, the worst thing would be the loss of a loved one. So I went back and wrote him again as a character struggling with bereavement. And suddenly he wasn't just a policeman sent to chase a killer. Now he had his own story to tell, and he'd become this compelling, hollow man. The creative writing class continued, with me reading out a chapter each week and questions from my fellow students helping me to shape the narrative. By the time the course finished, I had a completed first murder and several fully formed characters. But my serial killer was just getting started.